He sat down. Ate their ice cream. Used their bathroom. And left behind his DNA, his fingerprints, his clothing, his shoes, 2 knives, and a waste bag filled with personal belongings. He left enough evidence that investigators believed identifying him should have been only a matter of time. The killer was in that house for hours. And 25 years later, nobody knows who he was. Some killers hide in the shadows. Others leave the lights on. This is Quiet Monsters. Subscribe now. Mikio Miyazawa was 44 years old and building websites for a living in a city that was just learning to live online. He worked from a small desk in the corner of the family's living room, often late into the night, the glow of his monitor the last light in the house. He was quiet, methodical, the kind of man who finished what he started. His wife Yasuko was 41, warm and practical, the one who remembered birthdays and packed lunches and made sure the children wore scarves in winter. She worked part-time at a local school, not for the money but for the rhythm of it, the way it kept her connected to the world beyond their front door. Their daughter Nina was 8 and had just started learning piano. She practiced every evening after dinner, the same 3 songs over and over, until her brother would groan and Yasuko would smile and Mikio would pretend not to hear from behind his screen. Ray was 6 and still slept with a stuffed rabbit he had named Mimi. He carried it everywhere, even to the bath, even to dinner, until Yasuko finally made a rule: Mimi stays in the bedroom. Ray would place it carefully on his pillow each night, a small ritual of order in a child's chaotic world. The house was modest, a 2-story wooden structure on a narrow street in Kamiyoga, a quiet pocket of Setagaya where families had lived for generations and neighbors knew each other's names. It was the kind of place where bicycles were left unlocked and children walked to school alone, and the biggest disruption on a Sunday evening was the sound of Nina's piano drifting through an open window. December 30th, 2000. A Sunday night in Tokyo. The city was winding down for the new year, offices closed, trains running on holiday schedules. The Miyazawas went to bed like any other family. Mikio had spent the evening finishing a website for a client, the deadline looming before the holiday break. Yasuko had been planning Nina's 9th birthday party, just 3 weeks away. She had sketched a cake design on a notepad in the kitchen, a rough drawing of a piano keyboard in colored pencil. Ray had placed Mimi on his pillow and climbed into the bottom bunk, already half asleep before Yasuko finished tucking him in. None of them would see the morning. The killer entered through a second-floor bathroom window sometime after 11:30 p.m. The screen had been removed or damaged, allowing access. The window was small, barely 60 centimeters wide, but he squeezed through. The house was modest, tucked into a quiet corner of Setagaya. 200 meters away, a police station sat dark and silent. He had all the time in the world. And he used every minute of it. Mikio was the first to die. Found at the bottom of the stairs, skull fractured, throat slashed. He had fought back, defensive wounds on his hands proving he had woken, had tried to stop what was coming. Investigators believe he first attacked with a sashimi knife he found in the house, a blade from the kitchen block Yasuko used for fish on weekends. Investigators believe the sashimi knife bent during the attack, after which the killer used a second knife he had brought with him. Yasuko was next. She had tried to protect her children. Police found her in the second-floor hallway, between the children's bedroom and the stairs. She suffered dozens of stab wounds. The second knife, the one he had carried in, was found nearby, its edge dulled from use. Then he went into the children's room. Nina was 8. Ray was 6. They were found in their bunk beds, covered in blankets that weren't theirs. According to investigators, the blankets had been placed over the bodies after death. Ray's stuffed rabbit, Mimi, was still on his pillow. The piano keyboard cake sketch remained on the kitchen notepad, the colored pencils still scattered where Yasuko had left them. He didn't run. He didn't flee into the Tokyo night. He stayed. 4 hours. He walked into the kitchen. Opened the refrigerator. Ate 4 ice cream cups, vanilla, the cheap kind from the local convenience store. Drank barley tea from a bottle on the counter. Used the family's computer to browse the internet. Searched for flight schedules. Never booked anything. He went into the bathroom. Used the toilet. Left the seat up. Washed his hands. Left a towel crumpled by the sink. Then he simply walked away. But he left something behind. A waste bag. A fanny pack. He had arrived carrying it, and he left it there, abandoned, its contents spilled or arranged in a way that suggested he had reached inside, taken what he needed, and simply forgotten to take it with him. Or chosen not to. Inside and around it, police found a change of clothes. A knife. A hip flask. A jacket. A hat. A scarf. A pair of shoes. Microscopic grains of sand unlike those normally found around Tokyo were recovered. Years of analysis suggested they may have originated thousands of kilometers away, possibly from the western United States. Numerous personal effects. All traceable. None leading anywhere. The sweatshirt was from a South Korean brand. The shoes were size 27.5 centimeters, the wear pattern suggesting an unusual gait. The hip flask had a fingerprint on the rim. Clear as day. Another fingerprint was found on the stair railing, another on the computer mouse. The killer had not worn gloves. He had not tried to hide his presence. He had touched everything. The fingerprint and DNA were compared against available domestic and international databases. Nothing. The DNA was even more baffling. Male. Modern analysis suggested maternal ancestry from the Mediterranean region, while paternal ancestry likely came from an East Asian ethnic minority. Geneticists initially thought the sample was contaminated. It wasn't. The combination was rare enough to be distinctive, common enough to be frustrating. A ghost with a fingerprint and a genetic profile that should have narrowed the world to a handful of men, yet matched no one. Monday morning, Yasuko's mother came to visit. The front door was locked. No answer. She called Mikio's phone. It rang from inside. She called the police. What they found would become Japan's most expensive criminal investigation. Over 200,000 DNA samples collected. A reward of 20 million yen, roughly $200,000. Tips flooded in from across the world. Every single one went nowhere. The killer arrived between 11:30 p.m. and 12:30 a.m. He left around 10 a.m. the next morning. Nearly 10 hours inside that house. He walked out through the front door, locked it behind him, and vanished into a city of 12 million people. And nobody saw him. No one knows why he stayed. Investigators have proposed several theories. Some believe he was a former acquaintance who knew the family's routine. The precision of the entry, the timing, the lack of forced entry at the front door, all suggest someone who had observed the house, who knew the layout, who understood that the bathroom window was the weakest point. But no connection was ever found. No disgruntled client. No estranged relative. No neighbor with a grudge. Others think he was a serial killer rehearsing for something bigger. The brutality, the prolonged presence, the taking of souvenirs without stealing valuables, all fit patterns seen in other cases. But no other crime has ever been linked to this DNA. No other scene has matched this profile. If he killed again, he did it somewhere else, in some other way, leaving no trace that connected back to Setagaya. A profiler suggested he was trying to understand what it felt like to be part of a family, something he may never have had. This remains speculative, one theory among many, unsupported by direct evidence but haunting in its possibility. The way he moved through their home, the ice cream, the computer, the bathroom, all suggest a kind of performance, a simulation of domestic life built on the ruins of a real one. Geographic profiling suggested he lived within a few kilometers of the house, someone who knew the neighborhood well enough to enter and exit without being seen. The sand in his bag suggested travel, perhaps recent, perhaps habitual. The South Korean clothing suggested connections across the sea, or simply a preference for brands unavailable in Japan, or a life spent moving between borders. The military theory emerged largely from the sand analysis and certain clothing and equipment, not simply because the attack appeared disciplined. Some investigators wondered if the sand's possible origin near western United States military facilities, combined with the methodical nature of the crime, pointed to someone with training, someone who had learned to move quietly, to stay calm, to leave a scene without panic. But no military database matched the DNA. No deserter, no veteran, no foreign soldier on leave fit the profile. The DNA findings themselves evolved over time. Early analysis suggested Southern European maternal ancestry. Later, more refined testing pointed to a broader Mediterranean connection, while the paternal line traced to an East Asian ethnic minority group, possibly from a specific region, possibly from nowhere that could be pinpointed. The combination was so specific that if they ever found a match, there would be no doubt. Every year, witnesses age and memories fade. Technology improves. But the mystery remains. In 2020, police announced a new analysis, refining the geographic origins of the DNA, narrowing the possibilities, expanding the search. They haven't found one. The Miyazawa house was torn down in 2018. New families live on that street now, most unaware of what happened 200 meters from their front doors. The police station still operates around the clock. The convenience store where the ice cream was bought has closed and reopened under new management 3 times. Nina would be 33 now. Ray would be 31. The website Mikio was building was never finished. The birthday cake was never baked. And somewhere, maybe in Tokyo, maybe in Seoul, maybe in Rome, maybe nowhere at all, if he's still alive, he alone knows why. The Miyazawa family never got to finish their sundae. He did.